Hi, this is Lola, but you can call me Lola if you like.
Hi, this is Velisa, and you can call me Vels if you want. And this is the Everybody Hates HR podcast episode. I want to say 77.
Yes,
Yes.
it is. Because last week,
yes,
not 1 week gap, but last week,
that's
we
it.
did episode 76.
Speak on it. Yes.
And we said we'd be back this week.
And we are.
We're back.
We're back.
I mean, you know when they say you can't praise a fish for swimming?
But we're back.
But we will, yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. How's your week been?
What did I even do? It's one of those weeks that just went like that. It just went so quickly. I don't know what happened. But yesterday, when I finished work early at 4:30. I was zapped. I don't know what happened. And I've got building works going on in the flat. I'm doing this loft conversion. I can't remember if I said this last week, but my builder was trying to talk to me about bathroom and the division of the wall, and I was just looking at him like, you know, your eyes are just like wide. Like, I was trying my best to concentrate, and I could not hear one word. Like, my boyfriend had to come. I was like, my boyfriend will be home soon, and he was like, oh, okay. And then after a while, he just stopped talking to me. He was like, to wait for your boyfriend to come home, and I was just like, find out what they want and just talk to them about it. Like, I just couldn't do anything. Like last week, you know, say, oh, it drained me.
Today drained
me. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that it was just a week of a blur. It was a short week as well, so I don't know why it was so draining. But maybe a short week, cramming a lot in.
That's true. Was it a short week? Was this week are you sure? No, that was last week.
No, it was this week. It was a bank holiday Monday.
No way.
I mean, I don't know when you guys will be listening to this, but
oh my gosh, it was.
It's to gaslight me.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it was this Tuesday to Friday.
Wow. And it felt like Monday to Sunday.
Literally, it felt like Monday to 2 Sundays later.
Literally.
So I think maybe it was that, just like a short week, a bit disorientated, but I was tired by the end of it. So I can't even tell you what I really did, but work and sleep.
Yeah. Same really. Like, work was battering me. You know when you are actually working for your salary? Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah, it's one of those weeks.
I really hate that.
Where it's like, oh, okay, so this is why you lot pay me. Like, that's how hard I was going this week, and it's not been cute. So yeah, like, I've been tired. But like, similarly to you, I had the gas man come round just to look at. I just feel like our bills were really high, so we have the British gas service thing that you pay for. So I was like, oh, can you come round? And he was like, oh, it looks like you have money in this house, because we didn't have our eco thing on in the boiler.
Okay.
We had our like everything on full max. So he was like, when you turn on your taps, you get hot water straight away, because you've got it on something where there's always hot water in your boiler ready to go. So he was like, unless this is something that you really need, you can let it like run until it gets warm. So like little things like that. Like I was like, oh,
so then some money in your pocket.
So then the next question was, oh, do you live with your mum? Because I was at home, like it was just me and my nephew, because he was staying because of the half term. So he was like, oh, do you live with your mum? And I was like, no. And then he was like, oh, because like I'm asking you questions and you don't know. And I was like, yeah, because I was like, because my husband isn't here, he's not here. Like, you're asking me all these questions I don't know the answers to.
Your mum?
Literally. I was like, oh, you know, my husband's not at home, like, so I'm just giving you what I can, but I'll pass on the information.
But I also love that for you. My husband's not at home. That is hilarious. Do you live with your mum? Yeah,
literally, because he was like, I'm asking you these questions and you literally have zero idea what to say.
Mate, I don't know, sometimes I feel away. Like one time it was fairly shortly after I bought my flat, I had a similar situation. Someone came in to change to a smart meter, and he was like, well, if you speak to your landlord, blah 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 blah. I was like,
don't assume.
I'm the landlord, but also I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing here, please help me.
What a micro.
Yeah, crazy. Velisa sent me some text this week. Yeah, I'm here to expose you.
I know, I'm thinking, where's this going?
Talking about you know, you feel like you worked for your money.
Yeah.
She sent me something about, do you know what, I might need to get into labor relations. And I was like, what you mean like US? She was like, no, like in the European countries where they have like the works councils. And I said, you're crazy. Because there you will work for your money. You want to be doing Dutch, Belgian, French, employment law, employment relations. No, you're going to work for your money.
Do you know what? Yeah. If you are in labor relations, please reach out to the pods because I really want to speak to you. No, because honestly, I've been on LinkedIn. So I'm not trying to leave my job, but I've been on LinkedIn and I keep seeing labor relations roles.
Yeah.
And they're at like companies that, maybe one day I would like to go to.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, is this the new thing? Like, are we trying to hybrid the employee relations stuff?
We really want to be EMEA.
Like, we really want to just put everything together so that we could increase our hiring and like the skill set or whatever. So I'm like, okay. And then I'll look at a labor relations job description. And apart from like the employee relations side of things, I'm like, nah, I can't do this job.
I've done 5%. That's what you said.
I said to Lola, I've done 5% of what they're asking for in the JD, which some people would still apply it. But so I'm like, maybe I should get more involved in like the work councils and the labor relations side of things, like the industrial relations side of things. But you're right. I would definitely work for my money. So
no, you work. Yeah. I've got some clients who have offices in those locations, and when I have to do, I can't say too much.
Nah, I hear it because every time someone mentions like French work council, everybody's face just goes.
No, we'll get into a little bit of that kind of stuff on this episode, I think. But some, and it's not bad. Like in some countries, employees really feel entitled, as they should, because they're working or whatever. But the level of entitlement in other like European countries, like let's be real, UK people, like people in the UK who are employed here, they are hella entitled. Like they will ask for their wildest dreams when going through certain things. Some people
it's people. So, but in other European countries, I feel like they're like, oh, you lot are small fry. Yeah. They go hard, but it's because their employment law supports them.
Yeah, their employment law helps them to be entitled because they actually have rights and protections.
They do. I love European like employment law in the other countries. Yeah, for employees, not as a HR person, but for employees. Like sometimes I hear that and I'm like, I wish we had that. Like speak on it. Yeah, like Netherlands. Yeah.
But I promise you, as a HR person in the Netherlands, you just want to go and bury your head in the sand.
You do. But it's all good. But I feel like the UK and Ireland have a lot more complexity to their employment law. And I feel like places like Germany, for example, or I'm just thinking of the countries that I've worked in, or like in EMEA, or like even, dare I say it, even like in Israel. I feel like even though they support their employees more with employment law, I don't feel like it's as complex in terms of like grey lines and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like in the UK and Ireland, there's so many blurred lines of how far you think you can push and take things.
It's a bit more discretion applied.
Yeah.
What I would say, actually, I don't know if it's actually about the rules. I was just thinking when you was talking, I don't know if it's about the rules which makes it hard, or the fact that people just know their rights more. So I find like when I've worked with other European countries,
that's a good point.
You can't get away with anything. Not like even simple mistake here, you never get away with, because people know you're not allowed to do that. The law says this, and they will send you the Labour Relations Act article, and they will say per this article, blah blah blah. Like they know their rights. I did one mistake I made. Yeah, I'm working in a global company, and I sent out global, like maybe like 6 offices, 6 different countries, and I sent out this thing which basically said, oh, like we're collecting diversity data, so just let us know, like everyone had their own categories, just pick your thing. It was anonymous, so the only people who could see it would be HR, like a couple people in HR, but like your manager couldn't see it or whatever. And also when we it was just it was the first time collecting ethnicity data, so they already had like gender data. They don't have like anything around sexuality or sexual identity. It was just they already had gender, obviously already have age, and now they were just going to be adding ethnicity. So I sent that out, and then I got maybe like 3 or 4 emails from people in the Dutch office being like, you can't do this, it's not allowed, it's literally illegal. And I was like, what? Then obviously I didn't have to go very far because they all sent me the independently.
Yeah.
They've now sent me the articles, the acts or whatever. And it didn't say that you can't collect it, but you're only allowed to collect it if it's part of, if you're considering implementing some sort of measure to address like underrepresentation in recruitment or something. But I'm like, how do you know you're underrepresented if you're not allowed to collect the data? Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. There's like, but if you're collecting it with the intention of doing something, if you find underrepresentation or something like that, you can do it. I'm like, well, you kind of need to collect the data. But in the end, it was just like, obviously it's a nice to have, but it was making people really uncomfortable. So for that country, you decided not to collect it.
Wow. Yeah, I agree with that actually. I do think employees in other European countries tend to be more vocal about their employee rights. I feel like in the UK and Ireland, from my experience, they just don't, not in the same way. Like, they're more likely to even say, oh, I spoke to my lawyer, but these times their lawyer is like their friend.
Yeah.
You know, he went through something similar.
Yeah, like
but
their friend's lawyer could be me. People come to me.
Someone else in HR, like, do you know what I mean? I feel like, yeah, there is I don't know what the word is, like how to describe it or why it happens, but yeah, it's definitely a thing where I feel like there's a lack of knowing. Because sometimes, do you ever have conversations with employees and obviously you have to stay neutral, but you're thinking, but why haven't you done this? Or why didn't you know this?
This is actually a very good segue into what we're going to be talking about today. Labour, obviously, well, let's take a couple of steps back. We're having a general election.
A Jenny Leck. Thank you.
A Jenny Leck on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Oh, Americans. But we're having a general election on the 4th of July. And obviously now, you know, all parties, but especially the two major parties, so the Conservatives and Labour, are now going overdrive with, like, you know, sharing their policies, what they'll do if they either stay in government or come into government. Obviously, you've got some other parties there. The Green Party, obviously, I don't think they're going to necessarily win, but they're hoping to get some more seats.
Mm-hmm. Lib Dems.
The Lib Dems. Obviously, in the locals, like, the Tories got thrashed, so lost a lot of representation. And so people are now thinking that, you know, there's actually a chance that, you know, it might not be a Tory government going forward, whether that's like Labour, whether that's a coalition, maybe it'll still be the Tories. And so Velisa sent me over like what, you know, Labour are saying they're gonna do for workers and what they're gonna do in terms of like employment law and employment rights. And I got to reading and I just thought it was really good, interesting. We should talk about it on the pod.
Yeah. Can I say two things before we start?
Go on.
You know what one of them is?
I know one of them is going to be.
So the first one is, I would just like to big up all the political parties, social media assistants, employees that are working the TikToks, because I have been cackling. Like, every single one of them, doesn't matter what party it is, have made me laugh with their TikToks that they have been putting up. So I just wanted to put that out there, that it's hilarious. Like, big up all you unserious people behind those TikToks.
One of my clients is doing the social media for the Labour Party.
Oh my God, Labour is my favourite right now. Like,
one of my,
the TikToks are some of their stuff. Hilarious. Like, it's given American politics.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Actually, there's two more kind of things. So the second one is, like, we're going to talk about, you know, obviously what Labour will do with employment law if they are the ones who win the Jenny Leck. But by no way do we represent any party as we speak about these things. Well, I can speak for myself because I came neutral. I came in black.
Listen, I'm wearing red.
Certain people. So we're talking about Labour today. I bet.
Wait, listen, I just wore what was available. Yeah, I didn't come.
I'm not gonna lie. This dress looks fresh out the box.
I actually have pictures. I have receipts. I actually got it when I was in Dubai. So I've worn it before in I got it in like a white cream colour, which I've worn on the
yeah, I've seen you wear that.
And then when I went to Dubai, I saw it in H&M in a different colour, and I was like, one thing about me, I'm gonna buy it in every colour.
I was just gonna say that's a very millennial thing to do.
Some of us, we got good ideas. That's one thing about millennials, we got some good ideas. So anyway, I bought it. I've been wearing it. I got photos, I got receipts. Like, you don't necessarily have to align this episode with supporting a party, even though we're going to talk about what Labour are going to do, mainly because we know what Tories have been doing.
Yeah.
So
we spoke about their stuff that came into effect from April. Stuff. Yeah, like we spoke about what they've done.
Yeah, so yeah, that's just on my dress. What's the third thing?
Oh no, the dress was the third.
Anyway, so Velisa came to wear black, and she didn't tell me that we had like a
who would have thought you would turn up in red?
You should have worn blue.
That's true, aesthetics. But who would have thought you would turn up in red?
I didn't even think twice about it. I just thought, good, I got a red dress. It's working for me today.
You're so out of control.
Anyway, it's on brand with the episode. But the reason I said it was a good segue was because there's a whole thing about Labour saying they want to make jobs more secure. Yeah,
and you can see it from what they're suggesting that they're gonna put in place.
Yeah, should we go through them?
Yeah.
Let me get my notes. I read the full document.
Of course you did. So for me, the first one that I saw that really stood out to me as a HR person was the right to unfair dismissal from basically the beginning of employment, but it doesn't. Your probation period is still exempt. So now when you people celebrate your 6 months or 3 months passing, it will actually mean something.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't know that it was going to be the probation period was actually exempt. I thought they were saying you can get like protection from unfair dismissal from day one, but it was kind of vague. Obviously, they haven't got the legislation or anything ready. But I saw unfair dismissal from day one, but they still want to make sure that probation periods can be used properly. But when I read that, I was thinking, okay, they put like not just probation periods will still count, but they wrote probation periods when like enforced properly or when managed properly or something like that.
Well, good. Honestly, good, because these managers need to use that probation period properly.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so good. Now they're going to have to work. I love that for them.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, wow. So it's not just going to be probation. You know, you still got another 18 months of like, you know, before it becomes a real issue. It's literally going to be like, you got to manage this probation well, because if you fire someone and you ain't been giving them the feedback, obviously from what we can see, you haven't been giving them the feedback, it's not robust enough for you to fire them, so they might be able to claim unfair dismissal. 100%. That is crazy.
Yeah, which is why as a HR person I was like, okay, this is good in terms of, okay, managers actually need to manage, but as someone who would be dealing with the fallout of, because definitely it will increase the amount of grievances within people's like first year of employment. It will increase the amount of complaints. It will increase the amount of mutual settlement agreements. It will increase everything if managers and HR have not done their jobs properly.
Yeah,
there's just more. It just creates more risk.
So here it said, when talking about basic rights from day one, and they really are basic rights, isn't it? Like having basic rights from day one. This will not prevent fair dismissal, which includes dismissal for reasons of capability, conduct, or redundancy, or probationary periods with fair, transparent rules and processes. So
look at that.
That's what they said.
Look at that. Sounds really simple.
It literally it makes sense. You know what I mean?
Should, apart from like unfair dismissal, being entitled to it from day one, is that not what should be happening anyway?
Yeah, literally. We will ensure employers can operate probation periods to assess new hires. However, the changes will help to ensure that newly hired workers are not fired without reason or cause, and will help to drive up standards in workplaces.
Look at that.
It makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. Like, yeah, that's what should be happening. But
I mean, it's really the bare minimum.
It's bare minimum. But also will cause hell for HR and like employees.
Mate, all of you people that are listening, if you work in HR, if you're managers, whatever, you start getting on that probation training. We run it for our clients anyway. But like
literally,
how to manage probation is a really basic manager capability that a lot of managers are not capable of.
Oh my God, for whatever reason, why?
They don't care.
But then, do you know what irritates me? Managers will not care, and then the person passes probation, then 2 months later you're saying that person is underperforming.
I've seen literally 1 week.
Oh my God.
I have seen 1 week.
How?
I have seen someone pass probation a week ago, and now you're telling me the person is underperforming.
Is that not crazy?
Not even passed by the skin of their teeth, not even passed with, you know, strong feedback.
Flying colours.
Passed with flying colours. You even announced it in the stand-up, or you announced it on an email.
No concerns.
The person that's posted on LinkedIn. What do you think about people posting probation pass on LinkedIn?
I think I've said it before on the pod in a past episode. Anyone who celebrates their probation gives me the ick. I'm sorry. Like, currently, as the law stands in the UK, if you celebrate your probation, I'm sorry, you give me the ick, because like, you still have no rights. So what are we saying? Oh, because you did 3 to 6 months.
I just feel like it's too low to like be celebrating. Like, oh, I just wanted to announce to everyone that I passed my probation. That's embarrassing.
Like, let's celebrate the real wins. Like, let's celebrate the real wins.
Today's my 2-year anniversary. Then we can clap for you.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's the one you should really celebrate. The 2 years, not the 6 months.
Yeah, I just thought it was really interesting around like all of that stuff around basic rights. And they have like in this document, it was really interesting because they were basically like they obviously give like the preamble. It's a sales document, right? So they give you a preamble. So this was the preamble for the basic day one rights. Mm-hmm. What they said: the rate at which people move jobs has been declining, posing a risk to productivity because the lengthy wait for basic rights means the risk of moving jobs falls heavily on the individuals. Mm-hmm. This is a problem for workers because those who switch jobs get pay rises 4 times higher than those who do not. There's a problem for businesses because they may not be able to hire the best possible candidate. And then it goes on to say Labour will do blah 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 blah. But I thought that was interesting because
it makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense because people, you might be like, oh, I literally mentioned it last week. Like, sometimes moving doesn't make sense because you go back to, not having any rights. You might get a pay rise, but is the pay rise significant? That's why people need this pay rise of, 2 times, 4 times more than they would have got by staying in the organization to make it worth it. I'm literally going to go back to having no rights from day one, except for discrimination, which I'll have to, the burden of proof will be on me to prove. I'm going to go back to having no rights. You should pay me for that. And that is why I think sometimes people demand higher salary. So I wonder if people have rights from day one, if they'll be more willing to move jobs. That's basically what they're saying. Yeah. They hope to happen.
I feel like in general, yes. But then, for example, some companies, not all of them, like if you want to have a baby, for example, like, now you'd have rights from day one, but their policy might still be, if you've been there less than a year, you're only entitled to statutory maternity pay and blah, blah, blah. So I feel like women will still kind of like lose out a little bit in that sense. And I feel like you probably feel, I've never been, I've been pregnant while working, but it was during COVID, so it is what it is. But I feel like you feel more comfortable getting pregnant once you've been in the company for a little while anyway. So maybe that as well will like still stop women who want to get pregnant or have babies in the future as part of their plan to move still. Yeah.
There is also, as part of it, there's some family leave as well that is going to be from day one. To be honest, I don't think that makes a difference because they're not saying they're going to enhance like maternity or anything like that. But now you've got all this waiting period, 26 weeks. You have to notify before this date, that date. It kind of sounds like some of that stuff is going to be reduced because you can get a statutory maternity pay or you can get the statutory maternity allowance, which I think is a bit different. I don't know if it has that 6 weeks at 90% part, or if it goes straight to flat rate. I don't know.
For
this, you have statutory maternity pay if you're employed for at least 6 months or something, and then if you're not eligible for statutory maternity pay, you can get a statutory maternity allowance. But I can't remember what the difference is, to be honest. So, but they've said that they're gonna do something around having more parental leave rights from day one. But I don't know what that will look like because you are already entitled to have maternity leave and some form of maternity pay from day one, just maybe not from your employer because statutory maternity pay comes from your employer, and if you get the allowance you have to apply directly from the government, I believe. So that was one of the things.
I saw something about statutory sick pay, but I didn't.
They're gonna remove something like the lower earnings thing of it. It was like a small thing.
One thing they do want to do, actually, introduction of ethnicity and disability pay gap reporting. Yeah.
I think that'll be interesting.
I mean, based on the stats that are collected on what the pay looks like for people from different ethnicity groups and disability groups, the companies are going to have to do some real work to explain themselves if that comes into effect.
I want to know how people are going to deny it, because, you know, like, you've got all these like crazy, I want to say mainly like men's rights activists, and they'll say the gender pay gap doesn't exist. The gender pay gap doesn't exist. And I was like, the gender pay gap is literally a calculation. You can argue with the premise of the calculation or whether we should be calculating it in that way, but it's maths. I wonder what they're going to say about the ethnicity pay gap.
Oh my gosh. Do you know what? For me, it's going to be more shocking than the gender pay gap report. It's going to be more shocking.
Because when you have the gender pay gap report, so I was explaining this to one of my clients recently. They were actually based in India, and they were talking about the gender pay gap and how when you have bandings, like let's say you work in, for instance, the NHS, that's an easy example. You've got band 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Obviously, if you're at band 4, you'll get paid the same money. So you'd assume that there's no gender pay gap, but that's not what the gender pay gap is monitoring. Yeah. So if you have 2 accountants and the 2 accountants are paid £50,000 each, you think, oh, we have no gender pay gap because all of our roles have a set salary for them. The gender pay gap looks at the average pay of women in your organization and the average pay of men in your organization. So even if, you know, for every 2 roles that you have that are the same job title, you pay them the same. If your organization is more skewed so that, you know, the women are in more junior roles and the men are in more senior roles, you will still have a gender pay gap. As a concept, I don't think it's hard, but people really want to fight with it. That is what the gender pay gap measures. And sometimes they split it into, like, for instance, in law firms, they might split it into fee earners and non-fee earners, because in the fee earning side, it might be worse than on the non, because you get a lot of admin, secretaries, you know, people in kind of corporate services. So, but that can also be explained when you think about the gender pay gap, because obviously women take time out of the workplace and then they go and have babies, they come back, that impacts their career. You know, sometimes women, because they have the primary caring responsibilities of children, sometimes they don't want to progress as much. But when it comes to ethnicity pay gap reporting and disability, I want to know what they're going to say.
They can't say anything.
What would they say? Because we're not, like, there's men, women, you know, it doesn't make any sense. We can't use that same argument when it comes to ethnicity pay gap reporting. But I was just having a look at what the threshold is. I believe for gender pay gap reporting, I think it's 250. You have to have 250 staff.
Employees,
250 employees rather. I think so. So maybe for ethnicity, I assume it will be the same. And I actually
that's fine.
Yeah, it's 250 and more. And I think that's actually right, because I think under a certain number for ethnicity, especially, the numbers are just.
We'll all know who the one person is.
Do you get what I mean? Some organizations do publish it though already. They publish, like, a lot of the law firms, or a few law firms actually have started it, and I think a lot of that comes because of pressure from clients. But yeah, I think that would be really interesting.
Oh, can't wait. I'd love to see it.
Yeah. I saw that they're also saying that they want to explore introducing the right to disconnect.
I saw that.
Which we've spoken about on the pod before.
We have. Do
you want to explain it?
So, right to disconnect, basically what Labour plan to do if they win the Jenny Lack. I just like saying Jenny Lack. I need to fit it in somewhere. Is the right to disconnect, which means that employees have the right to basically switch off outside of their working hours and not be penalised if they are not replying or working outside of their working hours. There should be no consequence for them doing that. So again, like a very basic.
Very basic.
A basic right. So basically,
like, literally, when you go home, you can be at home.
Yeah, like you don't have to work outside of your contractual hours and be penalised for it.
Yeah.
Like if you don't. Like, how basic is that? But yeah, I think that's really good, because as we've spoken about it plenty of times on the pod, people feel pressure to work outside of their working hours, you know, when they shouldn't be, unless you really want to, or you have flexed your day. to work outside your working hours, that's different. But if you're working outside of your working hours because you're on edge, or because you have a manager who is high strung and is always sending emails outside of working hours, so you feel like you need to do the same, then, you know, and they're like, oh, I sent you an email at 7 p.m. and they're telling you this at 9 a.m. the next day. Oh, did you get it? You haven't responded.
Because I haven't been at work.
You just got to send that right to disconnect.
Literally. So let's see how they've described it. The pandemic has led to a change in flexible and remote working practices in many workplaces, which offer significant opportunities to fit work around family life. However, it has also inadvertently blurred the lines between work life and home life. Good employers understand that workers, to stay motivated and resilient, they need to be able to switch off, and the culture of presenteeism is damaging to morale and productivity. Equally, workers know that there are circumstances where employers may need to contact them, and some value the ability to be able to work outside of conventional working patterns. Mm-hmm. And then they go say, we will do this, blah, blah, blah. But that's the rationale that they're using, which I think is fine.
It makes sense. Where Labour really would have won if they did some sort of cap on how many times
they can.
You have to go into the office.
Oh, it's cut. No, I didn't.
Then they would have won.
I don't think they're trying to change that part.
They're not, but that would have helped.
And so what I saw in this document is that they're saying that they will bring legislation in within the first 100 days of them being in power.
Okay.
So that would be very interesting, wouldn't it? Like, that's 3 months. You got 3 months to put the legislation in front of us.
It's so interesting. Like, when I, for example, with the right to disconnect, I think of like the financial services, like those sorts of industries where people really don't know what it even means to disconnect, like how, you know, or people who work in sales where, you know, deals depend on them kind of being like, you know, doing skeletal hours or whatever in the background you know, at their discretion, not in their contract, but really if you want to make that deal, you've got to be doing it. I wonder how it will affects people like that, if they'll even take it into consideration, or if those sorts of industries and individuals would just carry on as normal, and it would be more like maybe junior. I mean, Gen Z, they don't need the right to disconnect act to come in for them to close their laptop at 5. Don't shoot me, I know it's a stereotype. But yeah, like, so I'm wondering you know, how like impactful it will be broadly, or will it be a certain type of, you know, employee, or you know, a number of industries, and not these industries over here that will actually see any difference of that coming into effect? Will we see more, you know, things go into court about, oh, you know, my manager contacted me constantly at 6:30 p.m. but my contract says I finish at 5. Like, then, you know, what will that look like when it goes to court? Like, how are the judges and stuff gonna take stuff like that into consideration? Like, what sort of sanction or money will be put on things like that?
And I also think, like, when you read like the theme, I mean, it's all well and good to write this stuff down, in it. What you would deliver is a separate thing, but the whole theme is around flexibility, is about two-sided flexibility. So they say they're trying to get rid of all that one-sided flexibility, so like 0-hour contracts. And 0-hour contracts, I think I never saw them. How I thought about 0 contracts before, I never thought of them as a bad thing, because they benefited, well, didn't sort of benefit me, but when I worked in 0-hour contracts, it was like when I was kind of in my teens. So a 0-hour contract is basically a contract which says you have 0 contracted hours, and so when we give you the work, that's when you get the work. So 1 week you could have, you know, 4 hours, 1 week you could have 36 hours. They will offer you the work, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that you then necessarily have to take it, but your employer is not obligated to give you work. So there are some people who do regular hours, and I think those are the people who they're saying it's not fair to. Let's say you do regular hours, you do a regular like 30 hours, but you're on a 0-hour contract. And all that means is that even, it's good because your employer gets 30 hours of you want the money, you show up to work. But if one day they decide, or 1 week they decide, don't want to give you the 30 hours, all the risk is on you. How will you provide for yourself? How will you pay your bills? Because you become accustomed to the money, you have the money, it comes in regularly. but your employer has all the power and you bear all the risk. So if one day they don't want you to work, they can just stand you down. Whereas when you have a contract, like a normal contract, where you have a fixed number of hours and a fixed remuneration that you can guarantee that you'll get every week or every month or every hour that you work, that's different.
Yeah. So I saw with what Labour would bring in, from what I remember reading, was in your first 12 weeks of a 0-hour contract, they would average out how many hours you worked in those first 12 weeks to figure out, you know, what your guaranteed hours should be from the 12 weeks.
Yeah. I think it's like, I think what I understood is that they want to convert 0-hour contract people onto proper contracts. And in order to determine how many hours that contract should be, they'll use that reference period of 12 weeks. Kind of like how they do for maternity. What I knew, but I never had thought about until I had a case this year. With maternity pay, like with your, you get paid, with statutory maternity pay, you get paid 100% of your pay. No, sorry, 90% of your pay for the first 6 weeks. And even if you, like, your employer can never offer you less than that, right? So even if your employer has a policy of whatever, for the first 6 weeks you could never have less than 90% pay, but it's done on a reference period. So even if you are your employer says you can have 6 months full pay, they can calculate the enhanced part as they want, but the statutory part has to be calculated in line with the statutory calculation. And your salary is not just the salary that's on your contract. When they say you get 6 weeks at 90% pay, it's based on a reference period. So they look back, I can't remember how many weeks before your due date, and they take a period of 8 weeks and they do the average salary. So if you got paid a bonus in that salary, they take that into account. So I had a client, and they had somebody who their reference period fell in the month that they got their bonus. So their 6 weeks at 90% is actually more than them, so they get paid more in that period.
So I found this out while I was on maternity.
Did you have the same situation?
Yeah, because I looked at my pay and it didn't make sense. Like, none of it for that whole year of being on maternity, nothing made sense. And I spoke to HMRC.
Was it higher?
It was higher, yeah. So
you didn't speak to your employer?
I spoke to HMRC. Let's use common sense. Go to my employer for.
I'm dying.
I went to HMRC just to make sure I'm not impacted by what's going on, not my employer.
Oh, that's funny.
They explained that to me, because that's basically what happened to me. Yeah, because of RSUs and.
But that makes sense actually, because this person was due around the same time that you would have had your baby as well, and obviously bonuses are paid towards end of the year.
Mine was more to do with RSUs. So RSUs are restricted stock units. So basically stocks when you work for companies that give you some, and they usually have like a vesting period, and most companies, like after you've been there a year, you start to vest quarterly. And even though that money is not in your account and it's in whatever,
it's still earning.
Yeah, HMRC see it as you earning. So let's say you're vesting $10,000 in June, it will look like you earned that 10,000 plus your salary. So it just looks mad. So that's basically what happened to me, is that they accounted my RSUs.
So the salary that they took for your calculation of maternity was actually higher than your actual salary itself. So I didn't know that, and I thought that was really good. So I was like, wow, when you're having a baby boy,
time it.
The planning.
Not that mine was planned, but
the planning, because I was looking at this maternity schedule thinking this don't add up. It don't add up, and then I had to ask, and then someone was like, oh yeah, this is what I was like, oh yeah, okay.
It's a fun fact. It's not a bad one.
No,
let women have something.
It's hard. Exactly.
Yeah, let women have something.
Exactly. I mean, if you, getting pregnant for some people is easy, for some people not so much. But if you can plan it like that, you work out where your bonuses come in, you do all of that stuff, mate.
You're laughing.
Yeah, go for it, mate.
Yeah, enjoy your maternity.
Exactly. Oh, unpaid internships.
Oh, speak on it.
Okay, so what does it say about unpaid internships? Okay, Labour will ban unpaid internships except when they are part of an education training course. This will be good for social mobility, ensuring that talent of tomorrow gets the vital skills and experience they need to succeed. So I was kind of not necessarily in two minds about it. I get it. because basically the idea behind that is when organizations offer unpaid internships, it really, disqualifies a whole bunch of people who need to get paid to work. The idea of going to work for 6 weeks, 6 months, 12 months for no money, you can only do that if you're benefiting from a relative amount of privilege. Do you know what I mean? Because lots of other people, they actually can't afford to give that much of their time up without money, especially if they're not in education. So I think that's good to ban unpaid internships because people should get paid for work. I do think it will reduce the number of internships that, well, you shouldn't be having unpaid internships anyway, but I definitely think it will reduce the number of unpaid internships, which could then impact the amount of people who are able to get that experience. I do, because I know some people offer unpaid internships, but they would never offer them if they were paid. And the idea that employers get value out of internships, some employers get value out of internships depending on what the person is doing, but a lot don't get any value out of internships. They don't get that much value. It's more for the person. So I think maybe now they could do it. Maybe they have to put it under the kind of ESG kind of banner, the social stuff, the corporate social responsibility. Maybe they'll put those internships under that, because a lot of internships are not for the benefit of, they're not for maybe the image or the social, all that social responsibility stuff, but they don't economically, directly, benefit the company. So I understand why, if they're saying, well, you have to pay, and you have to pay someone to not add that much value, why people would stop it if they don't genuinely believe in what the purpose of the thing is.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So as you're speaking, I'm asking myself questions like, how will this impact certain groups with regards to, like you said, if they have to pay, are they now kind of going to look at it similarly to when they're hiring, employees, which means that there'll be a number of people at a disadvantage just based on what they look like, sound like, all of that stuff. So that's what I'm thinking in my head. So does it mean that? Yeah,
it probably will feel more like recruitment, or it will do the thing that they want it to do, which is, if you're going to hire your friend's son or daughter, and they ain't adding that much value, you're going to hire them. You might not,
they'll still hire them.
You might, exactly, like you might just think, just pay them minimum wage. I've seen it happen before as well. Like, do you have to pay them? How much is the minimum? Okay, cool, just pay them £11 something an hour. And
I'll never forget when I was at the pharmaceutical company, and the HR director hired his niece as an intern, and I was the HR admin, and I think there was maybe like 2k between our salaries. And I was just like, when you're just like, wow. Yeah. Like,
literally.
That's crazy. I really liked her. Like, she's lovely. And I really liked my director at the time. But I just, I think it was one of my first experiences in the workplace of like, oh, wow. So this is what happens. Like, this is what life in the workplace looks like for some people. So yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, they still paid internship, but yeah.
Exactly. So
she's not even in HR anymore.
I don't know if I should mention this. It's not a bad story. It's just, hopefully no one will ever hear it. But I was speaking to somebody at one of my clients a while ago, and a very lovely person, great at her job, blah blah blah. But she was telling me that when she got her first role in London, her dad did something, I can't remember what her dad did, but her dad had a lot of clients that were like very wealthy, and one of his clients was a billionaire. And she asked her dad if she could speak to that guy and be like, if he could get her some work experience, like literally anything, not expecting like, I'll work for free, I'll do anything, just like get me a job. And he sent her a list of companies that he owned and said, which one of these sounds good to you?
Must be nice.
And I was just like, and she works very hard, she's great at her job, blah blah blah. But I literally just thought, wow,
must be nice.
Like, I think she appreciated that. That's crazy.
Yeah,
but that happens.
This must be really nice.
And there's probably people who were queuing up to have such an opportunity, but they would never. But it's not her fault. I'll take the opportunity if I had it too.
It's true.
You get what I mean? So it's just, we all lived very different lives.
It's true. And I'm by no way, like, I'm far from being a billionaire, but this is why when I find people who look like me, who want a job, this is why I go hard, like with referrals. Like, I will search, even if it's nothing to do with me, it's not my business, like it's in a different area, or like I just know somebody who works in that company, I will go out of my way to email that person or DM that person on LinkedIn and say, I know this person, can I send their CV? Can they send their CV? Because other people have opportunities like that will just never land on so many people's doorsteps. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, even from a class point of view, like obviously being from South London, whoop whoop, and just growing up a certain way as well. Like I love when I meet another like South London.
Somebody said that at your wedding, I was sat on a table with another couple, and the guy was from South London. And
we went primary school together.
Yeah, his fiance, shout at you. His fiance said, "South London people, you're very patriotic."
Oh my gosh. Do you know what? This is such a side note, but we did a double date with them a couple months ago.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And when I say that my husband and his fiance were looking at me and him talk about South London, like, oh my God.
That's what my boyfriend and his fiance were doing.
Insufferable. Yeah, that's what their faces said. Like, because my husband's from North London and she's from the outskirts of London. So they were looking at me and him and was like, this is ridiculous. Like, why are they talking about 95 like it was yesterday in South London?
Yeah, because it was.
But you will just never understand.
You won't understand. You won't understand. And my boyfriend is from the same place of like London that Velisa's husband is from, and like he feels exactly the same way.
Yeah,
he doesn't get it.
You just don't get it. Growing up in South London is it's a whole experience. Like it's
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Like you get everything in South. Like, I cannot explain honestly. And like apart from uni, my whole education was in South. We know some people went to West for forsaked us. Yeah, I went to SFX, and I always say go to SFX was like attending like a HSB. Was it a HB?
A HBCU.
Yeah, it was like going Howard or Spelman. Like that's what it felt like attending SFX. So you just never know. Okay, you just don't get it.
But yes, if those who are not from London, just know South London is the best. It's
the capital.
Of London. It's the capital of London for everything. For food, you know what it is? Yeah, it's the hair and beauty capital of London, and no one can tell me anything else.
I still have to drive to Peckham.
No one can tell me that South London is not the hair and beauty capital of London. Because even when I went to sixth form in West London, best believe the people in West London were traveling 100% to South London to get like their hair. And this was like in a few years ago when we were in sixth form.
My niece, hi, because she'll probably watch this. She's 26. But anyway, I say that because when I say niece, people think I'm talking about a baby. Yeah. But anyway, she's from West London, and she was in Peckham yesterday doing her hair. Okay, everybody travels from West all the way down. Anyway, this is a proper side note, but
it's also the romance capital. That's why everyone came to collect their baby from South London.
Do you think that's a lie? That's not a lie. But you can get everything if you want. Brixton. I need to go to Maureen's. Have you heard of Maureen's in Brixton? Maureen's. This is an unpaid plug, but there's this place.
It might get edited out if I don't like it. But go on.
There's this place in Brixton called Maureen's. It's literally run outside of her back garden. It's doing the rounds on TikTok, and apparently it's like the best Caribbean food. Like loads of food bloggers and stuff have gone there, so it's not just
food hygiene rating.
Well, this is what I was talking about yesterday. I'm not sure. I'm not gonna lie. So go at your own risk because I don't know if she does. But from what I see, like the food looks amazing. So
have you been?
I need to go.
Oh, we should go.
Yeah. And maybe we'll do that as like a side content reel.
Where we get the main content.
Big plans.
Where we get the main content.
But yeah, I do want to go. I keep seeing Maureen's and Cooks by B. I think it's called in Woolwich. But I have seen mixed reviews about that one.
There's a girl I see on TikTok, and she cooks like Nigerian food, I think. And she was saying that on Sundays now she prepares pop-off for her church. And people keep asking me, what church do you go to? What church do you go to?
Oh, that's cute.
And that is so cute, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
What time is it? Okay, there's like maybe one or two, few more things. Okay, collective grievances.
No, what's that?
It says, whilst workers can formally raise a grievance that they've experienced at work individually via ACAS, no mechanism exists to do so collectively. In the worst cases, this can mean that some workers may not know that other people have experienced the issues that they have, meaning bad or illegal practice can continue without being properly dealt with. And then they say, Labour will make it easier for workers to raise grievances about conduct. Labour will enable employees to collectively raise grievances about conduct in their place of work to ACAS.
As in, people can raise numerous grievances together?
Yeah, me and you can come together and say, our team can come together and raise a grievance about the treatment that our manager has, how our manager has treated us at work. Yeah. So in the workplace, presumably, and outside of the workplace, we'll be able to do it. So via ACAS externally and in the workplace, presumably that would follow. So we could come together and raise a joint grievance about our manager. I think you can still do it now, but they don't have to. If your policy doesn't state that you can, you don't have to consider collective grievance. You can do it individually.
I'm trying to think about how I feel about it, because one thing I've noticed, and I was talking about this the other day, in like my employee relations experience in general, so just over the last like 10 plus years, one thing I've noticed is if how do I say this? I'm just going to say it because you know me, I'm the one that always brings up race. As in the workplace, black people don't talk, they do not complain. One thing I've noticed in my career is white people, they will band together and they will complain about that manager. As soon as one person raises up and says, this person is not good for us, they don't align with the culture, they don't align with the values, my skip level isn't doing anything, or they will speak up, they will be witnesses, they will come forward and they will say what they need to say, and trust me, things will be done. But it's not even just black people, other ethnic minority groups in the workplace do not feel like they can do the same thing or don't feel empowered to do the same thing.
I actually think this would be more helpful, because
that's what I'm saying. If there's actually something in place that says you can do it, because I feel like some of the issue sometimes with employees is when things are not written in writing to them, like what we were saying about people in the UK and Ireland not necessarily knowing their rights as well as other European countries. Sometimes they just need to know this exists and this is what happens if you do it. This is how you're protected if you do it. These are the consequences if you do it. Would really help. But certain people don't need that.
Yeah,
they will do it.
Do you know, that one thing I think we're not the greatest at complaining, but we're good at finding networks and talking to each other. Yeah,
but then it stays within that network.
But that's what I'm trying to say. But once they know, like, you know, putting yourself out, when you're in any sort of minority position, putting yourself out, you know, put your head above the parapet to complain is hard, because you do have to do it alone. And no matter what anybody tells you about, they support you, blah, 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 it ain't their job at stake. It's not their experience at stake. But when you have like 2-3 people that are going to do it together, then at least you can go through that together, usually quite unpleasant experience together. So I actually appreciate that coming in from an employee standpoint. From a HR standpoint, it's from an ER, it just sounds like a lot of work. You need to start learning as soon as, if Labour get into government, you need to start figuring out, as soon as they drop that legislation, you need to start figuring out how you manage those collective grievances and start running some training courses. Literally, I'm just thinking, how's that going to work? I mean, I feel like I've done some, but it's like very unofficial that people have come together and done it. But an official and it has to be like what usually you have, like one main complainant, and then some supporting people, basically, the ringleader and the followers. We love the ringleader. I think that's it. So let us know what you think about all of Labour's potential changes to employment law, or any others that we haven't mentioned that you think are interesting. And if you go back a few episodes, you'll hear what the Conservatives have put in place this year to compare. Follow us on socials. Hopefully stuff is already up. Is it? No, I don't know. By the time this goes out, hopefully. Oh yeah, no. Yeah, definitely. So follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter,
Forget we have Twitter. I'm not gonna lie. Twitter. Follow us on Twitter.
It's funny because that's Velisa's area. So the fact that she's forgotten about it is actually
oh my god,
it's crazy.
Yeah, follow us on there, and email us your dilemmas as well.
Yeah, we're gonna do a dilemmas episode very soon. So email us those dilemmas.
Yeah, and don't forget, if you're in labour relations or employment law, please contact me on the DMs.
Okay, guys.
That's a wrap, guys.
Bye.
Bye.